Imagine you are walking into a giant yellow brick hall in a blue-collar suburb of Chicago.
Okay, I can picture it.
Right, so for decades, this place was a bustling home away from home for the entire community. I mean, it hosted everything. Wedding receptions, class reunions, loud, packed Friday nights.
Like the true heart of the neighborhood.
Exactly. But suddenly, you walk in today and it's practically empty. The few people who are actually left running it are, struggling just to pay the property taxes.
That is so eerie.
Yeah, it really is. You look around this vast, quiet room, and you just have to wonder, where did everybody go? So welcome to the Deep Dive.
Glad to be here.
For you, the lifelong learner listening right now, today's mission is exploring a massive, heavily researched update to a modern sociological classic.
Oh, this is a big one.
It really is. We are diving into the 20th anniversary edition of Robert D. Putnam's Bowling Alone, the collapse and revival of American community.
Such a landmark piece of work.
Right. And the goal today is to examine the invisible fabric that holds American society together. We're going to look at how it quietly unraveled over the last few decades and what the data actually says about the trajectory we are currently on.
And it really is a fascinating journey, especially when you consider the origin of all this data. Because, the core of this book didn't actually start as a bestseller.
Really? How did it start?
It began as a well-respected, but honestly, somewhat obscure 1995 academic journal article by Putnam. He was literally just following a hunch.
Just a hunch.
Yeah, he was just poking around in various data sets about how Americans participate in local civic groups. But that initial article, it grew into an absolute cultural phenomenon.
Which is wild for an academic journal article.
It's unheard of,
Yeah.
but it struck this incredibly raw nerve with the American public because it essentially put hard numbers to a feeling that everyone already had.
Right, that feeling of isolation.
Exactly. Charting exactly how we went from a nation of eager joiners to a nation of increasingly isolated individuals.
Well, you've painted this picture of a massive cultural phenomenon, but okay, let's unpack this. Because when you look at the tangible evidence in the text, the actual anecdotes of this decline, it is almost haunting.
Haunting is a good word for it.
Yeah, for example, the text mentions the Glen Valley, Pennsylvania Bridge Club.
Oh, the Bridge Club, yeah.
Right. They had been playing regularly for over half a century, 50 years. But by 1990, they just broke up. And the crazy part is, no one is even left who can remember exactly why they disbanded.
They just faded away.
Exactly. Or look at the Roanoke, Virginia NAACP chapter. They had been this incredibly active force for civil rights since 1918. They boasted around 2,500 members at one point.
That is a massive chapter.
Huge. But then jumped to November 1998, and they had a heated contest for chapter president, and only 57 voting members even showed up to cast a ballot.
Just 57 out of what used to be thousands. And, we see that exact same hollowed out dynamic across every type of organization.
Right, it wasn't just political group.
Not at all. The book talks about the Charity League of Dallas. They had met every single Friday morning for 57 years to sew and knit for local causes.
Wow, 57 years straight.
Yeah. But on April 30, 1999, they held their very last meeting. And the reason? Simply because the average age of the group had hit 80.
Oh, wow. They just aged out of it.
Literally.
Wow.
The president of the group called it a sinking ship.
That is so sad. But it wasn't just older generations aging out, right? There's this story of a Massachusetts high school marching band.
Oh, yeah, the band uniforms.
Right. They opened the fall 1999 season with 40 brand new royal blue uniforms just sitting in storage because only 4 students actually signed up to play.
4 students.
Yeah. And 20 years earlier, that exact same band had more than 80 kids.
Which is such a stark contrast to where America was just a few decades prior.
Yeah.
If you look at the peak of the 1960s, civic engagement was so unbelievably high that a 1958 University of Chicago study actually warned that the threat of leisure was the greatest danger hanging over American society.
Wait, the threat of leisure?
Yes. A 1964 Life magazine article even complained about a glut of leisure. People were flocking to bowling leagues, garden clubs, PTA meetings, neighborhood committees, all in record numbers.
A glut of leisure. That sounds completely alien to us today.
It really does.
But I do have to stop and consider the era we're talking about here, like the 50s and 60s.
Right, and it is absolutely crucial to clarify that the 1950s and 60s were not some utopian golden age for everyone. The text is very, very clear about this.
Yeah, definitely not.
That era was marked by deep segregation, both legally and socially. There was grinding poverty, intense intolerance. So it's absolutely not a golden age for marginalized groups.
Right, we have to keep that context in mind.
Exactly. However, from a purely sociological standpoint, looking specifically at the sheer volume of organized participation, it was an era of peak civic engagement. It was fueled especially by young baby boomers who were just entering adulthood with this massive sense of collective purpose.
So it seems like the evaporation of these community groups wasn't like an overnight explosion. It was more like a slow-moving demographic glacier.
That's a great way to put it.
Like, it wasn't that millions of people suddenly quit their bridge clubs or marching bands in a huge huff. It's just that the older members inevitably passed away, and the
Mhm.
freshets of new, younger members simply never arrived to replace them.
They just stopped joining.
Right. But this makes me wonder, and I have to push back a little here on the premise. Is it possible the younger generation isn't actually less engaged, but they are just engaged in entirely different ways?
Like what?
Well, like, doesn't an active online forum or some solitary, highly curated digital hobby kind of replace the bowling league?
You know, that is exactly the question that flummoxed organizational leaders for years. They kept assuming it was just a shift in consumer taste.
Sure, just changing hobbies.
Right. But the data shows that digital networks or solitary hobbies actually do not replace physical civic engagement. And the reason comes down to the mechanism of face-to-face trust.
Face-to-face trust. Okay, unpack that.
So when you are physically present in a diverse community group, you are forced to interact across subtle social boundaries. You have to deal with the guy who talks too loud or the woman who totally disagrees with your politics.
Right, you can't just mute them in real life.
Exactly. But you still have to organize the bake sale together. And that builds a specific kind of robust, generalized trust that a highly curated online forum where you can, just block anyone you disagree with simply cannot replicate.
That makes total sense.
Yeah, so the diagnosis Putnam arrived at wasn't about changing tastes and hobbies. It was about a fundamental loss of a resource. And he called that resource social capital.
Social capital. Okay, so it's about the difference between a network of screens and a network of actual human friction.
That's beautifully put, yes.
And that takes us from the symptoms, the empty meeting halls, to the actual diagnosis.
Precisely. To understand social capital, I want you, the listener, to think about your own career. You probably have a college degree or some kind of specialized training, right?
Right.
Well, that is your human capital. It's a
Right.
property of you as an individual. And you might have a high-end laptop or specific tools. That's your physical capital.
Okay, human capital, physical capital.
But how did you get your last job? Or your first big client?
Oh, I see. It was probably through someone you knew.
Exactly. Odds are it was through a connection. Social capital is the core idea that social networks have value. It is the connections among individuals and the norms of reciprocity and trustworthiness that actually arise from those connections.
I find the history of this term so fascinating because the text notes that social capital was independently invented at least 6 times in the 20th century.
6 different times.
Yeah, people just kept noticing this invisible force and trying to figure out how to name it. The first known use was way back in 1916.
Over a century ago.
Right, by a rural West Virginia school supervisor named L.J. Hennepin.
Oh, yes. Hannafin's work is brilliant.
Yeah, he basically realized that an individual is practically helpless socially if they are just left to themselves. But when they connect with neighbors, there's this accumulation of social capital that actually improves the whole community.
Hannafin was incredibly perceptive. And what makes social capital so unique, sociologically, is that it operates simultaneously as a private good and a public good.
Okay, break down the private side first.
Sure, on the private side, it helps individuals directly. It's that networking to get a job, or simply having a reliable shoulder to cry on when things get tough in your personal life.
Makes sense. And the public side.
On the public side, the community benefits, even if they aren't directly involved in the network. So if you live in a neighborhood with a tight-knit neighborhood watch where everyone knows everyone else's schedule, your house is safer from crime, even if you personally never speak to a single neighbor.
Oh, wow. So the benefits of that trust just kind of spill over onto everyone.
Exactly, it spills over.
But wait, if social capital is so personally valuable, like having a wildly powerful professional and personal network, why wouldn't self-interested people just hoard it?
What do you mean?
Well, if my network gets me a job, what inherently makes that trust spill over into the wider community? Why doesn't it just stay locked in my private circle?
It spills over because of the active mechanism that makes social capital work in the very first place, and that is reciprocity. It is the currency of connection.
The currency of connection. Which brings to mind a really great quote from the book. It's from Yogi Berra, and he summarized the concept perfectly.
I love this quote.
He said, if you don't go to somebody's funeral, they won't come to yours.
It is so simple, but so true.
Yeah. Or the text mentions the Gold Beach, Oregon Volunteer Fire Department. Their fundraising t-shirt says, come to our breakfast, we'll come to your fire.
Exactly. Now, sociologists break this down into two types. What the firefighters are joking about on the shirt is specific reciprocity.
Specific reciprocity.
Right. That's a direct, calculated exchange. I do this for you, you do this for me right now.
Like a transaction.
Exactly. But what really drives a healthy spilling over society is generalized reciprocity. That's when I do something for you without expecting anything specific back from you in the moment.
Okay, so just doing a favor to do a favor.
Yes. I do it trusting that someone else in the community will eventually have my back down the road. It's essentially the golden rule applied at a massive scale.
But isn't generalized reciprocity incredibly risky? I mean, what stops free riders from just taking the favors, eating the breakfast, and never paying the community back?
That is exactly why face-to-face interaction and dense social networks are required, because they build reputation.
Ah, reputation.
Yeah, if you constantly take and never give, the community remembers. The network polices the free riders through social pressure. If we connect this to the bigger picture, a society that relies on generalized reciprocity, backed by a strong reputation network, is infinitely more efficient than a distrustful one.
Efficient how?
Think about the efficiency of using money versus a clunky barter system. If we don't have to instantly balance every single social exchange, we can get a whole lot more accomplished. Trustworthiness literally removes the friction from human interaction.
It's like a societal credit card with no limit. You swipe it knowing the system works. Whereas specific reciprocity is like a rigid barter system where every single favor has to be instantly appraised and repaid. Otherwise, the whole thing just stalls.
Precisely. That is a great analogy.
Yeah.
But as powerful and efficient as social capital is, we have to ask a somewhat darker question.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Is this efficiency always a force for good?
Mm-hmm.
Because we cannot fall into some naive kumbaya interpretation of community building.
Right, because the text gives some pretty jarring historical examples to prove that point.
Very jarring.
For instance, Timothy McVeigh relied on a very tight network of friends and a strong norm of reciprocity to bomb the federal building in Oklahoma City.
Exactly.
He used social capital to achieve that horrific act. Likewise, the KKK once tried to adopt a highway in Florida.
Yeah, that really happened.
Yeah, they claimed they just wanted to be involved in the community, like the Lions or the Elks Club. And, as observers, we have to impartially convey these examples exactly as the author presented them, strictly as sociological data points. They prove that social capital is a neutral utility.
Exactly. It's a completely neutral tool. It's like a neighborhood group chat.
Okay, a group chat.
Yeah, a highly engaged group chat is a very efficient form of social capital. You can use it to organize a beautiful block party, or you can use that exact same chat to coordinate the targeted harassment of a new family that just moved in.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
The network itself is neutral. The application is what matters. Because social capital can be used for both pro-social and anti-social ends, sociologists have to distinguish between its different forms.
So it sounds like there are different types of this capital depending on who you're actually building those connections with.
Yes. And here's where we get into the two main flavors. You have bonding social capital and bridging social capital.
Bonding and bridging.
Bonding is exclusive, it's inward-looking, and it tends to reinforce homogenous groups. Think of ethnic fraternal organizations or exclusive country clubs.
People who are already alike.
Right. It acts as a sociological superglue. It mobilizes deep solidarity and is really good for getting by in life when you need strict loyalty.
Okay, and bridging.
Bridging social capital, on the other hand, is inclusive and outward-looking. It encompasses people across diverse social cleavages, different races, different classes or religions. Think of the civil rights movement.
Ah, okay.
Bridging acts as sociological WD-40.
WD-40, I like that.
Yeah, it links you to external assets, it broadens your horizons, and it is crucial for getting ahead.
Here's where it gets really interesting because the book uses this fantastic quote from Thomas Green in 1829.
1829.
Yeah, it was at the founding of a community lyceum in New Bedford, Massachusetts. He talked about how people from all ranks and classes coming together to learn would actively remove the prejudices fostered by ignorance.
That is beautiful.
It really is. It's the ultimate historical example of bridging, of applying that WD-40, But surely this isn't a strict binary, right?
What do you mean?
Can a single group be both superglue and WD-40? For example, how does an ecumenical religious organization balance that inward loyalty to their specific faith with the outward bridging to the wider community?
That's a really great observation. And the text emphasizes that they are absolutely not mutually exclusive categories. They are dimensions along a spectrum.
A spectrum, okay.
Yeah, a group can bond deeply along one axis, like a shared religion, while actively bridging across another axis, like socioeconomic class or race.
That makes a lot of sense.
But having defined what social capital is and how it functions, whether it's gluing us together or lubricating our progress, we really need to bring the timeline up to the present day. We need to see where you, the listener, actually sit in this grand historical narrative.
And this is where Putnam drops his biggest historical breakthrough in the new preface of the 20th anniversary edition.
He really does. Because originally, bowling alone focused almost entirely on the second half of the 20th century.
Which basically looked like a depressing one-way slide into isolation.
Exactly, just a straight line down. But when he widened his lens to look at the past 125 years of American history, he discovered an inverted U-curve.
An inverted U-curve, so it went up and then down.
Yes. American social capital actually started out incredibly low at the turn of the 20th century, during the Gilded Age. It was almost as low as it is today.
Wow, really?
Yeah. Then it steadily climbed, decade after decade, hitting that massive peak in the mid-1960s we talked about earlier, and only then did it plummet.
But wait, if it was climbing so steadily for decades, what actually caused it to fall off a cliff after the 1960s? The book doesn't just blame it on people being in a bad mood.
No, not at all. Putnam identifies several very specific culprits. First was the privatization of leisure.
Meaning TV.
Largely driven by the rise of television, yes. Suddenly, entertainment didn't require going to the community theater or the lodge. It was piped directly into your living room.
Makes it too easy to just stay home.
Exactly. Second was suburban sprawl. As cities spread out, commute times exploded. And that drained the time and energy people used to spend on neighborhood activities, while also kind of eliminating walkable communities.
So people are just stuck in their cars.
Right. Third was the rise of dual-income households, without a corresponding structural support system for childcare. So you just had exhausted parents.
You just didn't have the energy for the PTA anymore.
Exactly. And finally, there was a major generational shift. The long civic generation, those who lived through World War II and formed massive civic habits, they simply began to age and pass away. And the generations behind them just hadn't formed those same joining habits.
It's fascinating that we've actually been at the bottom of this valley before 100 years ago.
We have.
But the 20-year update provided in this new edition paints a pretty grim picture of our current side of the U-curve. Like, church attendance has taken a total nosedive.
Yeah, the data is stark.
They call it the rise of the nones. N-O-N-E-S. Meaning people with no religious affiliation whatsoever. Union membership continues to wane. Everyday philanthropy, like donating to local fundraising drives or the United Way, is dropping steadily.
And it extends to our core civic duties, too. I mean, voting turnout has historically dropped or stagnated, despite the fact that voter laws have made registration easier than at almost any point in history.
So we lowered the hurdle, but fewer people are jumping.
Well said, yes. But perhaps the most concerning data point from the entire 20-year update is about our informal connections.
What do you mean?
Well, while complete total social isolation hasn't necessarily spiked, the average American's core discussion network shrank by about 1/3 after 1985.
Wait, the core discussion network?
Yeah, the people you truly confide in about important matters, the people you trust the most, that circle shrank by 1/3.
A third of your closest confidants just gone.
But why does it matter if that network shrinks as long as you still have one or two people? Because of who is left in that network. The data shows those networks contracted inward. The biggest declines in close personal ties were outside the family.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, we retreated into our immediate households. And that means less exposure to diverse perspectives. Plus, it puts an immense, sometimes crushing amount of pressure purely on the nuclear family to be absolutely everything for an individual.
That sounds exhausting for a family.
It is. But what's fascinating here is there is one notable silver lining the text highlights.
Oh, we need a silver lining right about now.
Amidst all this institutional decline, volunteerism has actually seen little to no consistent decline over the last 2 decades. People are still incredibly willing to lend a hand, even if they aren't formally joining a club to do it.
That's actually really comforting. But so, what does this all mean? If I'm listening to this right now, how does a busy individual living today possibly push back against a 125-year macroeconomic U-curve that is currently trending downward. I mean, it feels like fighting gravity.
It definitely feels daunting. But the text gives us a roadmap by showing us what worked before. Social capital isn't just a warm, fuzzy feeling. It is a tangible, powerful resource.
Right.
Yes, the data overwhelmingly shows we are currently in a deep valley of disconnection. But because it's an inverted U-curve, we know as a society that we have climbed out of this exact same valley once before.
100 years ago.
Exactly. During the Progressive Era, people intentionally invented the Rotary Club, the NAACP, and the Boy Scouts to combat the isolation of the Industrial Revolution. We built those bridges then, and we can absolutely build them again.
But it requires actual concrete action today.
Yes, it means showing up to a community garden, joining a local zoning board, or participating in a mixed recreation sports league. It requires intentionally placing yourself in physical spaces with people who aren't exactly like you to build that bridging WD-40.
And to prove why this isn't just, dry academic theory, I want to share one final, incredibly powerful anecdote from the text.
Go for it.
There's a man named John Lambert. He was 64 years old, and he had been on a kidney transplant waiting list for 3 years. He casually mentioned his situation one day, and a 33-year-old accountant named Andy Bashama unexpectedly offered to donate one of his own kidneys.
That is amazing.
And the thing is, they barely knew each other. They didn't share politics or religion or an employer. The only connection they had was that they bowled in the exact same league at the Upsey Arbor Lanes in Michigan.
Wow.
That is the ultimate life-saving power of social capital. It's not just about having someone to get a beer with. It's about the invisible safety net that catches us when we fall.
And that raises an important question, really, one for you, the listener, to mull over as we wrap up today.
What's the question?
The text notes that the long civic generation, the folks who built those bridge clubs, who kept the VFW halls bustling and the charity leagues running, they are fully passing on. As they leave us, what happens to the generations left behind? When the ultimate crisis hits our personal lives, will our curated digital networks step up to donate the proverbial kidney? Or are we quietly stripping away our informal safety nets without replacing them? It is really worth taking a hard look at the health and diversity of your own core discussion network moving forward.
It really makes you think about that empty yellow brick hall we walked into at the start of our deep dive. Whether those doors stay closed forever or whether a new generation walks in and turns the lights back on, it basically comes down to how much we value the invisible threads between us. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.